They call me a monster for refusing to die. When I drank from their poison cup at my own engagement party, they expected to attend my funeral. Instead, I survived, transformed. Now I've returned after 5 years of silence, with powers they can't comprehend and a vengeance they never saw coming. The same people who try to destroy me are begging for mercy. But monsters don't grant wishes, they devour them. The Loron estate glittered like a diamond against the evening sky, chandeliers casting golden light across the ballroom where the city's elites raised crystal flutes to celebrate my engagement. I was Elise Winters, the nobody who'd captured the heart of Victor Loron, heir to the third largest financial empire in the country. At least, that's what everyone pretended to believe. "Darling, you're absolutely radiant tonight," whispered Victor, his lips brushing against my ear as cameras flashed. His hand rested possessively on the small of my back, warm through the silk of my ivory gown. I smiled, playing my part perfectly. It's the happiest day of my life. Little did I know it would also be my last, or so they intended. From across the room, Celeste Blackwood watched us with eyes like sharpened emeralds. Victor's childhood friend, confidant, and the woman who had always expected to bear his last name. She wore crimson tonight, bold as blood against her pale skin, her practiced smile never reaching her eyes when they landed on me. Quite the Cinderella story. I overheard someone murmur as I passed. From filing his paperwork to wearing his ring in just 8 months. The whispers follow me everywhere. Gold digger, social climber, opportunist. They thought I couldn't hear them over the string quartet, but I'd grown up training my ears to detect threats. When you're raised in foster care, survival depends on hearing what isn't meant for you. A toast. The crystalline ping of silver against glass silenced the room as Madame Loron, Victor's mother, commanded attention. She approached with a regal bearing that 3 generations of old money had perfected, her silver-streaked hair twisted into an immaculate chignon. The crowd parted for her like the Red Sea. In her hands, she carried a single crystal goblet that caught the light differently than the champagne flutes everyone else held. It was an antique piece, ruby-tinged glass with gold filigree along the rim. "Tonight," she announced, voice carrying to every corner of the ballroom, "we welcome Elise properly into the Loron family." Her smile didn't touch the arctic blue of her eyes as she extended the goblet to me. Inside swirled a deep burgundy liquid, its surface shimmering with an iridescence that made my skin prickle with unease. "This is a Loron tradition dating back centuries," she continued. "A special blend passed through generations, shared only when new blood joins our lineage." I hesitated, fingers hovering over the stem. Something in the way Celeste and Madame Loron exchanged glances made my instinct scream. But with 300 pairs of eyes on me and Victor's encouraging nod, refusal would be social suicide. "To family," I said, raising the goblet. The liquid touched my lips, sweet at first, then shockingly bitter, with an aftertaste like copper pennies and burnt sugar. Heat bloomed in my chest, spreading through my limbs like wildfire. I maintained my smile even as my vision blurred, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing me falter. "Are you all right?" Victor asked, his concern perfectly pitched for our audience. "Just overwhelmed," I managed, though my tongue felt 3 sizes too large. 3 minutes later, my legs gave out. I collapsed against the marble floor, my engagement ring catching the light as my hand struck the ground. Gasps erupted around me. Someone screamed for a doctor. Through the chaos, I saw 3 things with perfect clarity. Celeste's satisfied smile, Madame Lauren's cold, calculating gaze, and Victor, my fiancé, my supposed love, watching with detached fascination as the life drained from my body. As paramedics rushed in, Victor knelt beside me, his lips brushing my ear one final time. "Goodbye, my love," he whispered for my ears only. "Your ambition exceeded your station." Darkness swallowed me whole. The Loron family played their roles perfectly in the aftermath. Victor, the devastated fiancé, kept a solemn vigil at my hospital bedside. Madame Loron arranged for the finest specialists, all of whom delivered the same prognosis: irreversible brain damage, persistent vegetative state, no hope of recovery. What they didn't know, what nobody knew, was that I could hear everything. The toxicology reports came back clean. Dr. Harmon told the Laurent family on the third day. Whatever caused her collapse doesn't appear in any standard tests. How unfortunate, Madame Laurent replied, her voice dripping with practiced sympathy. Poor dear must have had an underlying condition. These things happen sometimes, tragic as they are. When they thought themselves alone, the masks dropped. How long do we maintain this charade? Victor asked his mother a week later, irritation sharpening his tone. The investors are getting nervous about my mental state. Another month at most, she replied. Then we'll transfer her to a long-term care facility. Within 6 months, we'll announce her peaceful passing. The grieving fiancé narrative will serve you well with the female demographic. They discussed me as if I were a marketing strategy rather than the woman Victor had supposedly loved enough to propose to. Their voices faded as they left, replaced by the rhythmic beeping of machines, keeping my unresponsive body alive. But something strange was happening within me. The poison, for I was certain now that's what it had been, didn't kill me as intended. Instead, it seemed to be changing me. I could feel it rewiring my cells, altering my consciousness. With each passing day, my awareness expanded beyond the limitations of my paralyzed form. I could sense the emotions of everyone who entered my room, the genuine concern of certain nurses, the clinical detachment of doctors, the hollow pretense of Victor's daily visits. I began to hear conversations from adjoining rooms, then from the entire floor. On the 23rd day, Dr. Maya Chen entered my life. Unlike the parade of specialists before her, she noticed the anomalies in my brain scans. These patterns aren't consistent with brain death or vegetative state. I heard her murmur to herself. This looks more like evolution. When she touched my wrist to check my pulse, electricity sparked between us. Her sharp intake of breath told me she'd felt it too. What did they do to you? She whispered. That night, after all visitors had gone, Dr. Chen returned. She drew blood samples, tested my reflexes, and then did something unexpected. She spoke directly to me as if I could hear her. If you're in there, Elise, I'm going to help you. But you need to fight. Whatever they gave you is changing your cellular structure in ways I've never seen before. It's either going to remake you or destroy you. A single tear slipped from my unmoving eye, the first sign of response since my collapse. Dr. Chen gasped, then quickly composed herself. I'll take that as a yes. Now listen carefully. The Laurents are planning to move you next week to a facility they control. We don't have much time. As she spoke, I felt something crack within me, like ice breaking on a frozen lake. A rush of energy surged through my paralyzed form. My fingers twitched. Remarkable, Dr. Chen whispered. The metamorphosis is accelerating. Little did Victor know that when he raised that poison cup to my lips, he wasn't ending my story. He was beginning my legend. Consciousness returned to me in fragments. First came sound, the steady rhythm of hospital machinery, hushed conversations in hallways, Dr. Chen's determined voice as she fought to keep me under her care. Then sensation, the cool press of sheets against my skin, the burn of whatever was coursing through my veins, rewriting my genetic code, one cell at a time. Her readings are off the charts again, a nurse whispered. Should we notify the Laurents? No, Dr. Chen replied firmly. The fewer people who know about these anomalies, the better. I've seen what happens when pharmaceutical companies discover medical miracles they can't explain. If only they knew what was happening inside me. The poison, an ancient compound Dr. Chen had identified as chrysalis extract, was meant to kill ordinary humans. But something in my DNA was different. Instead of shutting down my organs, it was enhancing them, rebuilding me from the inside out. I existed in the void between life and death for 6 months. A medical curiosity, a comatose fiancé, a loose in the Laurent family assumed would soon be tied off permanently. The quarterly reports show a 15% increase since the announcement of the merger, Victor said to someone in my room, assuming I couldn't hear. Having Elise in this state has actually been convenient. The sympathy vote from the board has been tremendous. "Don't be crass, darling," Celeste replied, her heels clicking against the tile floor as she approached my bed. "Someone might hear you. The doctors say she's brain dead. She can't hear anything. Still, appearances matter. When you plan to end this charade?" "Mother wants to wait until after the Chun Technologies acquisition. Having a tragically ill fiancé makes me more sympathetic during negotiations." A cold finger traced my cheek. "Such a pretty face," Celeste mused. "Hard to believe there's nothing left inside. You chose well, aesthetically speaking." "She was clever too," Victor admitted. "Too clever for her own good. Started asking questions about certain shipments, offshore accounts. Couldn't have that." Their voices faded as they left, unaware that every word was another ember fueling the fire of my transformation. Every night, Dr. Chun would return alone, documenting the inexplicable changes in my body. "Your cellular regeneration is unprecedented," she whispered one night, reviewing her notes. "The poison should have killed you, but instead—" She paused, checking her instruments again. "Instead, it's somehow activating dormant parts of your DNA, parts that shouldn't exist in any human genome." On the 183rd day of my coma, everything changed. I've been feeling a strange pressure building within me for weeks, like energy with nowhere to go. That night, as Dr. Chun checked my vitals, my hand suddenly shot out and gripped her wrist. Her clipboard clattered to the floor as our eyes met. Mine opened for the first time in 6 months. "Elise," she gasped, shock and elation battling across her features. My throat, unused for so long, produced only a rasp. But my mind was crystal clear. I released her and pointed urgently to the water, which she quickly provided. "They poisoned me." I finally managed, my voice strange to my own ears, deeper, with an almost musical resonance that hadn't been there before. "I know." Dr. Chin nodded, helping me sit up. "I've been tracking the compound in your system. It's unlike anything in medical literature. Ancient, powerful." I looked down at my arms, noticing the silvery sheen beneath my skin when I moved. "What's happening to me?" Dr. Chin hesitated. "You're changing, Elise. The poison was designed to trigger some kind of metamorphosis, but I don't think it was meant for you. Your body is adapting in ways I can't fully explain." I caught my reflection in the window glass and froze. My once brown hair now fell in waves past my shoulders, streaked with silver as if I'd aged decades overnight. But my face was somehow more refined, cheekbones higher, lips fuller. Most startling were my eyes. Once hazel, they now gleamed amber with vertical pupils that expanded and contracted like a cat's. "The Lawrence will be notified of your improvement," Dr. Chin said, already reaching for her phone. "We need to run tests, document your recovery." "No." The word came out sharper than I intended, laced with a power that made the lights flicker. Dr. Chin's hand froze midair. "They can't know I'm awake," I continued, softer now. "They tried to kill me once. They'll try again." Understanding dawned in Dr. Chin's eyes. "You need to disappear. Completely." That night, we enacted a desperate plan. Using her security clearance, Dr. Chun transferred me to a private wing under a false name. By morning, Elise Winter's hospital bed was empty, with records indicating a sudden cardiac arrest and transfer to the morgue. The media frenzy was immediate and exactly what we wanted. "Lauren fiancé dies after months in coma," splashed across headlines nationwide. Victor played the devastated lover perfectly, his handsome face crumpling for cameras at a press conference. "Elise was the love of my life," he declared, a single perfect tear tracking down his cheek. "I'll never recover from this loss." Meanwhile, the real me was discovering the full extent of my transformation. My strength had increased tenfold. I accidentally crushed a metal bed frame when startled by a nurse. My senses had sharpened to supernatural levels. I could hear conversations 3 floors down, see in near total darkness, and detect the chemical composition of substances by scent alone. Most disturbing was my new awareness of others' emotions. When people came near, I could feel their intentions like colors radiating from their skin. Dr. Chen's concern a steady blue, the nurse's curiosity pulsing yellow, and when a Lauren pharmaceutical representative came searching, his deception burned crimson. We need to move you, Dr. Chun announced a week after my death. I have connections, people who study genetic anomalies like yours. There's a facility in the mountains where you'll be safe. Why are you helping me? I finally asked the question that had been nagging at me. Dr. Chin's expression darkened. Let's just say you're not the first person the Lawrence have poisoned. My sister wasn't as lucky as you. That night, as Dr. Chan helped me into a private ambulance, I caught sight of the evening news on a waiting room television. Victor stood beside Celeste at my memorial service, their hands intertwined too intimately for mere friends. Behind them, Madame Laurent watched with the satisfied look of a chess master whose strategy had unfolded perfectly. They think they've won, I whispered, the glass of the ambulance window frosting beneath my fingertips. Let them, Dr. Chin replied, starting the engine. The dead can't seek revenge. But you, Elise, you're something else entirely now. As we drove away from the city lights toward the distant mountains, I felt something stir within me, a strange fluttering beneath my ribcage that couldn't be attributed to my newly enhanced physiology. Stop the car, I gasped, clutching my abdomen. Dr. Chun pulled over immediately. What's wrong? I placed her hand where the movement had been most intense. Her eyes widened as she felt it too, the unmistakable kick of not one, but 3 tiny lies that had somehow survived everything that should have killed them. Impossible, she breathed. But I knew then that nothing was impossible anymore. The poison that failed to destroy me had instead created something miraculous. I wasn't just a monster rising from the ashes of Elise Winters. I was becoming a mother of monsters too. We need to move you, Dr. Chun announced a week after my death. I have connections, people who study genetic anomalies like yours. There's a facility in the mountains where you'll be safe. Why are you helping me? I finally asked the question that had been nagging at me. Dr. Chin's expression darkened. Let's just say you're not the first person the Lawrence have poisoned. My sister wasn't as lucky as you. That night, as Dr. Chan helped me into a private ambulance, I caught sight of the evening news on a waiting room television. Victor stood beside Celeste at my memorial service, their hands intertwined too intimately for mere friends. Behind them, Madame Laurent watched with the satisfied look of a chess master whose strategy had unfolded perfectly. They think they've won, I whispered, the glass of the ambulance window frosting beneath my fingertips. Let them, Dr. Chun replied, starting the engine. The dead can't seek revenge. But you, Elise, you're something else entirely now. As we drove away from the city lights toward the distant mountains, I felt something stir within me, a strange fluttering beneath my ribcage that couldn't be attributed to my newly enhanced physiology. Stop the car, I gasped, clutching my abdomen. Dr. Chun pulled over immediately. What's wrong? I placed her hand where the movement had been most intense. Her eyes widened as she felt it too, the unmistakable kick of not one, but 3 tiny lies that had somehow survived everything that should have killed them. Impossible, she breathed. But I knew then that nothing was impossible anymore. The poison that failed to destroy me had instead created something miraculous. I wasn't just a monster rising from the ashes of Elise Winters. I was becoming a mother of monsters too. The Qinling Sanctuary wasn't what I expected. Nestled high in the mountains where the air thinned and civilization faded, it appeared at first glance to be an ancient monastery, all weathered stone and sloping pagoda roofs. But beyond its traditional facade lay a haven unlike any other on Earth. My family has maintained this place for 15 generations, Dr. Chun explained as we passed through gates inscribed with symbols I somehow understood despite never seeing them before. We've always provided sanctuary to those who are different. Different was an understatement. The residents of Chunling moved like shadows through the courtyards. A man whose skin rippled like water when touched by sunlight. A woman who spoke with birds in their own language. Twins who could exchange consciousness between bodies. Mutations, Dr. Chin had called them. Evolutionary anomalies. Miracles and monsters. Now I was one of them. The compound you ingested is called chrysalis, explained Master Lin, an elderly man whose eyes had gone milky with age, but who could see through walls. In ancient times, it was reserved for royal bloodlines, administered in minute doses over decades to enhance certain desirable traits. Why would the Lawrence have something like that? I asked, one hand protectively cradling my swelling abdomen. Power recognizes power across centuries, he replied cryptically. Old families keep old secrets. My first year at Chunling passed in a blur of discovery and adaptation. My pregnancy progressed at an accelerated rate, my body changing to accommodate the extraordinary children growing within. By the 5th month, ultrasounds revealed 3 perfect fetuses with heightened neural activity and unusual cellular structures. They're like you, Dr. Chun confirmed, studying the readings. Enhanced, but born to it, not made. When the triplets arrived, 2 boys and a girl, each with my amber eyes, I named them after elements that couldn't be broken: adamant, bedrock, and corundum. Adam, Beck, and Cora for short. Their cries shook the sanctuary windows. Their tiny fingers left imprints in metal crib railings. They're perfect, I whispered, holding them close. They're weapons, Master Lin corrected gently. As are you now. The question is, what battle are you preparing to fight? I knew the answer. Even as I nursed my children and watched them grow with impossible speed, I never forgot who had put us here, who had tried to erase me from existence, who deserved to face what they had created. My training intensified after the children began to walk at 4 months old. Each day, I pushed my transformed body to new limits. I learned combat from Sister May, a former assassin whose touch could stop a heart. Strategy came from Professor Huang, who claimed to have advised emperors across 3 centuries. Your strength is remarkable, Sister May noted after I shattered yet another training dummy. But raw power without control is just violence. You must harness the energy flowing through you. She taught me to channel the strange electricity that coursed beneath my skin, to focus it through my palms until I could short-circuit electronics or heal minor wounds with the same energy. Professor Huang showed me how to use my empathic abilities strategically, to detect lies, manipulate emotions, even temporarily influence weaker minds with sustained eye contact. At night, I monitored the outside world through the Sanctuary's secure network. Victor Laurent had wasted no time after my death. Within 3 months, he'd married Celeste in a ceremony that dominated social media. Within a year, they'd had a son, Victor Laurent Jr., heir to the empire built on blood and deception. The Laurent Pharmaceutical Group had expanded aggressively, acquiring smaller companies at an alarming rate. Their flagship product? A revolutionary cognitive enhancement drug called Chrysalis Vitae. They're commercializing it, I told Dr. Chun, showing her the press release. Diluted, modified, but essentially the same compound. Her expression darkened. Dangerous fools. They don't understand what they're playing with. I watched my children grow as I cultivated my plans for retribution. By their 3rd birthday, the triplets displayed abilities that both amazed and terrified me. Adam could manipulate kinetic energy, stopping objects mid-motion. Beck possessed perfect recall and analytical skills that surpassed supercomputers. And Cora, my fierce daughter, could project her emotions outward, inducing everything from euphoria to paralyzing fear in those around her. They need to learn control, Master Lin cautioned after Cora accidentally sent 3 adult residents into panic attacks during tantrum. And purpose. Power without purpose becomes tyranny. Their purpose is to survive, I replied sharply, in a world that would dissect them if it knew they existed. Is that truly all you want for them? Survival? His milky eyes seemed to pierce straight through me. Or do you want something else entirely? The question haunted me as I continued my preparations. Using the Sanctuary's resources and Dr. Chen's connections, I crafted a new identity, Mara Nightshade, international investor and reclusive heiress to a fictional mining fortune. I altered my appearance just enough, darkened my silver-streaked hair to raven black, wore custom contacts to mask my unusual pupils, and cultivated a slight accent. By the triplets' 5th birthday, they had the appearance and intellect of 10-year-olds. It was time. We're going home, I told them one autumn evening as they practiced meditation in the sanctuary garden. But this is home, Beck said, logical as always. Cora's eyes lit with excitement. You mean to the city? Where the bad people are? Adam simply watched me, perceiving as he always did what remained unspoken. You gonna make them pay, aren't you, Mother? I knelt before my extraordinary children, these miracles born of hatred and poison who had become my entire heart. The people who hurt me, who would have prevented you from existing, believe they've won. They think their position makes them untouchable. Are we going to touch them? Cora asked, a dangerous gleam in her eye. No, darling, I smiled, cupping her perfect face. We're going to destroy them. That night, as the children slept, I stood at the edge of the sanctuary grounds overlooking the distant city lights. 5 years had transformed me from victim to avenger, from prey to predator. I was no longer Elise Winters, the naive woman who had loved a monster without recognizing his true face. Are you certain this is wise? Dr. Chen asked, joining me at the precipice. The Lawrence still have considerable power. If they discover you're alive, let them, I replied, feeling the energy crackling between my fingertips. I want Victor to know exactly who's dismantling his world. I want him to see his children. Yes, they're his too, though he'll never deserve them, and understand what he threw away. And after vengeance? What then? I hadn't thought that far ahead. Revenge had been my North Star for so long that I couldn't imagine the emptiness that might follow. Justice first, future later. As dawn broke over the mountain, I gazed at my reflection in the sanctuary pond. Monster or miracle, victim or villain, the labels no longer mattered. What mattered was that I had died a human and been reborn as something else entirely. And now, it was time for the Lawrence to meet the monster they had created. My return to the city was calculated for maximum impact. The Loron Pharmaceutical Group was hosting its annual charity gala, a self-congratulatory spectacle where the elite patted themselves on the back for donating fractions of their wealth. This year's theme, Transforming Lives Through Innovation, a celebration of their Chrysalis line of enhancement drugs. The irony was almost too perfect. Madam Nightshade, we're honored by your attendance, gushed the event coordinator as I stepped from my chauffeur-driven Bentley, my 3 children emerging behind me like shadows. The Lawrence have been eager to meet you since you began acquiring shares in neighboring markets. I smiled, adjusting the obsidian choker in my throat, a device Dr. Chun had created to modulate my voice and dampen my empathic signature. The pleasure is all mine. I've heard so much about Victor Lawrence's vision. My children, dressed in matching black formal wear that emphasized their unusual amber eyes, flanked me like sentinels. Though they appeared to be around 10 years old, they carried themselves with an unnerving adult composure that made other guests instinctively step back. And these must be your siblings? The coordinator asked uncertainly. My children, I corrected, enjoying her poorly concealed shock. They're advanced for their age. Inside, the ballroom was a study in excess, crystal chandeliers, champagne fountains, ice sculptures of the Chrysalis Vitae molecular structure. Surveillance was handled through my specially designed contact lenses, which transmitted everything I saw back to Dr. Chun at our penthouse command center. Loron approaching at your 2 o'clock. Her voice whispered through the nearly invisible earpiece I wore. Celeste with him. Their son is by the dessert table. I angled myself casually, catching sight of Victor for the first time in 5 years. Success had hardened him, his jawline sharper, hair now threaded with distinguished silver at the temples, his posture radiating the absolute confidence of a man who believed he'd gotten away with murder. Beside him, Celeste glittered in diamonds that probably cost more than the annual budget of Dr. Chen's sanctuary. A strange calmness settled over me. I'd imagined this moment for years, the rage, the vindication. Instead, I felt nothing but cool calculation. Children, I murmured. Remember the plan? Beck, catalog everyone. Adam, security systems. Cora, emotional baselines. They nodded almost imperceptibly before drifting away. 3 perfect predators circulating among the unsuspecting guests. I made my way through the crowd, accepting flutes of champagne I didn't drink, exchanging pleasantries with people who would soon lose everything. When I finally allowed Victor to accidentally encounter me by the silent auction. His practice charm was exactly as I remembered. Mara Nightshade, he said, extending his hand. Your reputation precedes you. Victor Laurent. I took his hand, feeling the familiar energy signature beneath his skin. The same energy that now coursed through me, through our children. He didn't recognize me. The black hair, the subtle cosmetic alterations, the years of transformation. But something in him responded on a cellular level. A slight furrow appeared between his brows. Have we met before? He asked, holding my hand a moment too long. I doubt it. I replied with a smile that didn't reach my eyes. I would have remembered. Celeste appeared at his side, territorial as ever. Victor, darling, the Harringtons are waiting. Her gaze swept over me assessingly. I don't believe we've been introduced. Mara Nightshade, Victor said. The investor I mentioned. She's been acquiring medical technology firms across Europe. Celeste's smile tightened. How fascinating. Any particular interest in pharmaceuticals? I go where the future leads, I replied cryptically. Your chrysalis line, for instance. Quite revolutionary. You've tried it? Victor asked, suddenly more interested. Let's just say I'm intimately familiar with its effects. Before they could probe further, a commotion erupted near the dessert table. Victor Laurent Jr., a pampered, sullen child of 7, was red-faced and shouting at Beck, who stood impassively while the Laurent heir threw what appeared to be a tantrum. You cheated. Nobody can memorize a shuffled deck that fast. Beck blinked calmly. I simply observed the wear patterns on the cards and calculated the statistical probabilities of each position after shuffling. Elementary pattern recognition. My son has a remarkable mind, I said as we approached the scene. He finds most children's games unchallenging. Victor's gaze darted between Beck and me, that same puzzled recognition flickering across his features. Your son has quite the gift for analytics. Perhaps he gets that from his father? His father is not in the picture, I replied coldly. But yes, genetics played a role. The confrontation diffused as Victor Jr. was whisked away by his nanny, but the seed had been planted. Throughout the evening, I positioned myself and the children in Victor's orbit, letting him glimpse familiar gestures, hear echoes of phrases I'd once used as Elise. Not enough to trigger recognition, but sufficient to plant splinters of doubt beneath his skin. Meanwhile, Beck had memorized the dossiers of every major player in the Laurent Empire. Adam had mapped all security protocols and exit points, and Cora had quietly identified the power dynamics, who feared whom, who desired what, who could be turned against the others. Mr. Laurent is exhibiting signs of stress, Beck reported during our brief rendezvous near the restrooms. Elevated pulse, micro-expressions indicating confusion and unease. He's taken 3 anxiety medications in the past hour. Mrs. Laurent is wearing calcite jewelry, Adam added. It interferes with empathic reading. She knows about enhanced individuals. Cora's observation was simplest. They hate each other. Their marriage is a prison for both of them. As the gala drew to a close, I ensured Victor and I had one final interaction, this time near the memorial display honoring Laurent pharmaceutical visionaries. Prominently featured was a holographic portrait of me as Elise, labeled "In Loving Memory of Elise Winters," whose tragic passing inspired our commitment to neurological research. I paused before it, allowing Victor to find me there. She was beautiful, I said as he approached. Yes, he agreed, his voice softening with what sounded like genuine regret. My fiancée. We lost her 5 years ago. I'm sorry. Was it sudden? A shadow crossed his face. Very. An undiagnosed condition. Nothing could be done. How terrible, I murmured, meeting his eyes directly. To lose someone you love and discover it was completely preventable. Something in my gaze unsettled him. He took an involuntary step back. Excuse me, I should find my wife. Of course. I smiled, allowing just a touch of my true nature to show through the facade. We'll have plenty of time to get better acquainted, Mr. Laurent. I've just acquired a significant position in Westridge Biotech. His face paled. Westridge was the company supplying the proprietary compounds for Chrysalis Vitae. That's quite an investment he managed. I believe in being close to the things that matter, I replied, my voice dropping to a whisper that only he could hear. Very close. As he hurried away, I pressed my fingertips to the holographic image of my former self. The innocent, human Elise shimmered and distorted under my touch, the projection temporarily disrupted by the energy flowing through me. Just like her memory would soon be disrupted by the truth. First move complete, I whispered to Dr. Chun through my earpiece. And Victor's reaction? I watched him across the room, huddled with his security team, casting nervous glances in my direction. He doesn't know what I am yet, I replied, but he knows I'm something to fear. That night, as we returned to our penthouse overlooking the Loron corporate headquarters, I studied the city lights with my children. 5 years ago, I'd been cast out from this gleaming world, left for dead by people who saw me as nothing but a stepping stone. Is it revenge we want, Mother? Adam asked quietly, his perception always cutting to the heart of matters. Justice, I corrected, though the line between the two had long since blurred in my mind. They're afraid of us, Cora observed, her empathic powers having grown stronger during the evening. All of them. They sense what we are. Beck, ever pragmatic, was already reviewing the data we'd gathered. The Loron Pharmaceutical Division has been conducting human trials of enhanced chrysalis compounds at 3 offshore facilities. Unreported casualties estimated at 27. My hands tightened on the balcony railing, bending the metal. Tomorrow, we begin dismantling everything Victor has built, not just for what he did to me, but for what he's done to others. What Victor didn't realize was that tonight's introduction was merely prologue. The real story, the one that would consume him with terror, was just beginning. My children enrolled in Westmount Academy 3 days after the gala. The same prestigious school that educated Victor Loron Jr., the same halls that had photographs of a smiling Victor Sr. as a benefactor, where Madame Loron served on the board of directors. The perfect staging ground for the next phase of my plan. We don't typically accept transfer students mid-semester, the headmistress had explained during our interview, especially without complete academic records. I'd simply smiled, allowing the faintest pulse of influence to color my words. I believe you'll find my children exceed all your academic standards. Their previous education was unconventional but thorough. Within minutes, the headmistress was fawning over Beck's mathematical abilities, Adam's scientific knowledge, and Cora's linguistic talents. The children were admitted with scholarships. Remember, I cautioned them before their first day, observe only. No demonstrations of your full capabilities. Beck had nodded seriously. Maintain the cover of gifted but normal children. Understood. Can we befriend the Loron boy? Cora asked, a dangerous gleam in her eye. Carefully, I warned. His father will have instructed him to report anything unusual. As expected, Victor Jr. gravitated toward my extraordinary children almost immediately. Despite his entitled arrogance, he was a lonely child, isolated by his family name and parents who treated him as an accessory rather than a person. My empathic senses had detected that much at the gala. Meanwhile, I accelerated my corporate strategy. Westridge Biotech was just the beginning. Through a labyrinth of shell companies and proxy investors, I acquired controlling interests in 3 key suppliers to Loron Pharmaceuticals. Then I began tightening the screws. Delivery delays from Quantum Solutions. Victor barked in his phone as I sat in my car outside Loron headquarters. Enhanced hearing allowing me to eavesdrop through the barriers. Quality control issues at ChemMaster Labs. And now Westridge is raising prices on our proprietary compounds. Find out what the hell is happening. Dr. Chun monitored his financial panic from our command center. Loron stock down 12% this week, she reported. Board members are getting nervous. Not enough, I replied. He needs to feel trapped, cornered, like I felt. The next blow came from an unexpected direction, through the children. Adam arrived home from school with a black eye and a grim satisfaction that immediately concerned me. What happened? I demanded, examining the already healing bruise. Victor Jr. called Beck a freak, he explained calmly. Said his father told him to stay away from us because we were abnormal. Beck continued the story, clinical as always. Junior attempted to demonstrate his superiority by challenging Adam to a physical contest. Adam allowed himself to be struck once before responding with precisely calibrated force. I only used 5% capacity, Adam added helpfully. Just enough to knock him down and demonstrate consequences. And then Cora finished with a smile that reminded me too much of myself. I helped Junior understand that telling anyone what really happened would make him feel very, very afraid. I should have been angry at the risk they'd taken. Instead, a fierce pride surged through me. What was the result? Junior is now convinced we can help him impress his father, Beck explained. He's invited us to his home this weekend. The invitation was our first direct entry into the Loron estate, the same mansion where I'd once believed I would live as Victor's wife, where I'd been poisoned, where everything had changed. You can't possibly be considering this, Dr. Chen argued when I informed her of our plans. It's too dangerous. If Madame Loron recognizes any resemblance. She won't, I assured her. She never looked at me closely enough to see me. I was just another accessory to her son's image. The Loron estate had grown even more ostentatious in my absence. New wings, expanded gardens, a helicopter pad on the roof. Wealth built on suffering, not just mine, but the dozens of trial subjects who had died testing their chrysalis derivatives. Welcome. Celeste's smile was brittle as she greeted us at the door. Victor Jr. has talked of nothing else all week. I'm Celeste Loron. I introduced myself as Mara, watching her eyes for any sign of recognition. There was none, only the calculated assessment of a potential social ally or rival. The children can play in the South Garden, she suggested. The nanny will supervise. Perhaps you'd like to join me for tea? My husband should be arriving shortly. The morning proceeded according to plan. While the children gathered intelligence from Junior and the household staff, I laid groundwork with Celeste, probing about their pharmaceutical interests, their marriage, their aspirations. Her emotions radiated anxiety beneath her polished veneer, particularly whenever Victor's name arose. Your husband seems quite devoted to his work, I observed, sipping tea I'd secretly tested for toxins. Victor lives for the company, she replied tightly. It's his legacy. And your son? Will he follow in his father's footsteps? Something flickered in her eyes, resentment, perhaps. If he's worthy. Victor has exacting standards. I leaned forward, allowing a hint of my empathic influence to create artificial intimacy. And what about you, Celeste? Are you happy? The question startled her. No one asks such things in their social circle. I have everything I ever wanted. Do you? Because you don't seem happy. You seem afraid. Her teacup clattered against its saucer. I don't know what you're talking about. Before I could press further, Victor himself burst into the room, face flushed with anger. What the hell is going on with? He stopped abruptly upon seeing me. Ms. Nightshade, I wasn't aware you were visiting. Your son invited my children to play, I explained smoothly. Celeste has been a wonderful hostess. His gaze darted between us, calculating. I see. Perhaps we could speak privately about the Westridge situation. My office is just down the hall. Celeste's fear spiked visibly. Victor, we have a guest. It's fine, I interjected, rising. I'd be delighted to discuss business. Victor's office was a shrine to his ego, awards, photographs with politicians, the emblems of power he'd accumulated. Among them, nearly hidden on a side shelf, was a small frame holding a pressed flower. The same rare orchid I had worn in my hair the night he'd proposed to Elise. You're destroying my company, he stated bluntly after closing the door. The question is why? I raised an eyebrow. Business is business, Mr. Loron. Surely you understand strategic acquisitions. This isn't strategy. It's sabotage. He leaned forward, hands flat on his desk. What do you want? Money? A partnership? Name your price. Perhaps I simply want what you have, I suggested. Your position, your power, your family. Something primal flickered in his eyes. Recognition, not of my face, but of my intent. Stay away from my son, like you stayed away from others' children. The test subject for your enhanced chrysalis trials. He went rigid. I don't know what you're talking about. 27 deaths, Victor. Children who suffered horrific mutations before their bodies gave out. All covered up with the help of offshore medical examiners, and grieving families paid for their silence. "Who are you?" he whispered. I smiled, allowing my contacts to deactivate momentarily, revealing my true amber eyes with their vertical pupils. "Someone who knows what it feels like to be poisoned by you." The color drained from his face. "Impossible." Before he could recover, the door burst open. Madame Laurent stood there, elegant as ever despite the decades, her gaze sweeping over me dismissively before fixing on her son. "Victor, the board is calling an emergency meeting. Westridge has terminated our contract entirely." Her eyes narrowed at me. "Who is this?" Maronite shade. I introduced myself, contacts reactivated, my composure perfect. "Investor. Mother. Friend of your grandson." Something in my voice made her pause. She studied me more carefully this time, a faint crease appearing between her brows. "Have we met before?" "I doubt you'd remember if we had," I replied coolly. "I was probably beneath your notice." The double meaning hit its mark. A flash of uncertainty crossed her aristocratic features. The tension was broken by screams from the garden. We rushed outside to find Victor Jr. on the ground, writhing in apparent agony, while my children stood in a semicircle, watching with clinical detachment. "What happened?" Celeste shrieked, dropping to her son's side. "He wanted to try something," Cora explained innocently, "from his father's private cabinet. Said it would make him special." Clutched in the boy's hand was an empty vial labeled Chrysalis X. An experimental version, Beck would later tell me, that Victor had been developing for military applications. "Get the doctor," Victor shouted, panic overwhelming him as his son's eyes began to change color, veins bulging beneath his skin. "Call the private medical team." In the chaos that followed, my children and I slipped away unnoticed. But not before I whispered in Victor's ear as he cradled his convulsing son. "Now you know how it feels. This is just the beginning." The Laurent family's fall dominated headlines for months. Pharmaceutical dynasty implodes. CEO confesses to human experimentation, screamed the front pages. Victor's public confession, detailed, unflinching, damning, sent shockwaves through the medical and financial worlds. Madame Laurent was arrested attempting to flee the country, a private jet loaded with family heirlooms and research data that dated back generations. The truth, once fully excavated, was more horrifying than even I had imagined. The Laurent family had been refining the chrysalis compound for over a century, using unwitting test subjects throughout multiple wars and medical charities. I watched Victor's televised testimony from our new home in the mountains, a modernized compound built adjacent to Dr. Chen's sanctuary. I knowingly authorized experimental treatments on 34 subjects, resulting in 27 deaths, he stated, voice hollow but steady. I personally administered a toxic variant to my fiancée, Elise Winters, believing it would cause her death after she discovered evidence of our illegal operations. The world believed Elise Winters was still dead, a fiction I maintained. Mara Nightshade, with her newly established identity, had disappeared from public view after providing key evidence in the case. The triplets and I retreated to our sanctuary, where other enhanced individuals could live without scrutiny. 6 months after Victor's confession, Dr. Chun brought news during her weekly visit. "Victor Jr. has stabilized," she reported. "The serum worked, though his abilities appear more limited than your children's. He'll live, but he'll need guidance." "And Victor?" I asked, surprised by my own curiosity. 20 years minimum. The judge was particularly harsh, given the evidence that he personally poisoned you. She hesitated. "He's requested to see you. One final meeting before they transfer him to maximum security." I considered refusing. My vengeance was complete. The Laurent Empire dismantled, its crimes exposed, its principles facing justice. What more could there be to say? "I'll go," I decided finally. Alone. The Federal Detention Center was a stark contrast to the opulence Victor had known all his life. He sat across from me in a sterile visitation room, prison jumpsuit hanging loose on his frame. The past months had aged him dramatically. Hair now completely silver, face gaunt, eyes hollow. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I wasn't sure you would." "Neither was I admitted. We studied each other in silence. Two people transformed irrevocably by the same catalyst. "Junior asks about you," Victor said finally. "About the children. He knows they're his half-siblings." "What did you tell him?" "The truth. That I committed unforgivable crimes against their mother. That I don't deserve to know them, but that someday, when he's older, he might reach out if they're willing." I nodded, surprised by his honesty. "He's different now," Victor continued. "The chrysalis changed him physically, but seeing my public disgrace changed him more. He's living with Celeste's sister. She's a good person, nothing like our family. He'll have a chance at a normal life, eventually." "Normal is relative," I replied, thinking of my own extraordinary children. "But he deserves a chance." Victor leaned forward, hands clasped on the table. "I've signed over all remaining Loron assets to a blind trust. The administrators have instructions to use everything for victim compensation and medical research into genetic conditions. Junior will inherit nothing until he's 30, and only if independent evaluators deem him ethically sound." It was more than I'd expected, a thorough dismantling of everything the Lorens had built. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're the only one who truly understands what that serum does, what it means." His voice dropped. "And because I need you to know that some monsters can recognize what they are before it's too late." The irony wasn't lost on me. I had become the literal monster. He had been the figurative one. Now our positions were somehow reversed. "There's one more thing," he said, sliding a small wrapped package across the table. "This arrived for you at my attorney's office. From my mother." I unwrapped it cautiously to find an ancient leather journal, its pages brittle with age. A note in Madame Lorent's elegant script read simply, "Family history. Your children should know where they come from." "She still doesn't believe she did anything wrong," Victor explained. "But she acknowledges the children as Loron descendants. This is her twisted version of acceptance." I tucked the journal away, neither accepting nor rejecting the complicated legacy it represented. That would be a decision for my children when they were older. As our meeting ended, Victor asked the question that perhaps had been his purpose all along. "Was any of it real? Between us before?" "Yes," I answered truthfully. "Until it wasn't." He nodded, accepting this partial absolution. "I hope you find peace, Elise. Or Mara. Whoever you choose to be now." "I'm not sure peace is possible for what we've become," I replied. "But I found purpose. That's enough." 5 years to the day after I'd been poisoned, I stood in the courtyard of our mountain haven, watching my children train with others like them. Dr. Chun had expanded the sanctuary into an academy of sorts, a place where the enhanced could learn to control their abilities and use them responsibly. Victor Jr. had arrived 3 months earlier, initially awkward around his half-siblings, but gradually finding his place. His abilities, minor empathic sensitivity and accelerated healing, were modest compared to theirs, but his determination was genuine. "Do you regret any of it?" Dr. Chen asked, joining me at the observation window. "The revenge, the exposure, any of it?" I considered the question carefully, watching as Cora helped a younger, enhanced child control her emotional projections. Adam demonstrated kinetic manipulation techniques to a small group, while Beck tutored others in cognitive enhancement exercises. "I became the monster everyone feared," I said finally. "But perhaps that's what was needed to end something worse." Below, Victor Jr., now just Junior, looked up and caught my eye. His tentative smile held no resentment, only the uncertainty of someone seeking redemption not for himself, but for a legacy he never chose. I smiled back, acknowledging the complex truth we both understood. Sometimes the monsters in stories aren't who they appear to be. And sometimes, becoming what others fear is the only way to create something new from the ashes of what was destroyed. Not peace, perhaps, but possibility.